G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Yeah, nice to be here, mate. Once again.
Very good, mate. I've got some news out of WA with some leading player managers have been speaking to some third-party companies over there not involved with the Perth Bears.
Yeah.
And what we understand is that could be a catalyst for some of the players who have been talked about going over there to head over there.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. The thing about player managers, they're generally a step ahead of everybody else when it comes to earning a quid. So the fact that they're already over there was sniffing around, seeking out third-party sponsors, and the definition of that for people at home is that it's basically a sponsor that is not associated directly with the club. So they have to be directly related to the player, not the club itself.
Can't use any IP, can't use any logos.
Nothing like that. A good example is you look at the television ads with Nathan Cleary and Rexona. He basically wears an all-black outfit, no Panthers logos or anything like that, or any signage around suggesting who he plays for. They are difficult to get. Look, the funny thing about third parties is there's this massive conspiracy theory around the game about how much clubs spend, and certainly I think the clubs that are better performed are better at utilising third parties. So it doesn't surprise me that firstly managers are over there seeking out companies who will possibly get involved, and I don't think the Bears, who technically are not allowed to do that, but the way it works is they generally engineer it backwards once they get an agreement. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears do get involved. One thing I do know too about the Perth market, there's so much money over there in mining, particularly mining. Yeah, I know an ex-boxer, for example, who he'd get $50,000 to do a lunch off the mining companies. So it's just ridiculous money. So if they're over there looking around, that will be, I think, as you said, the catalyst for going to say like a Cameron Munster. I'm sure Braith's his manager. I'm sure Braith's on the phone over to all the Perth businesses now saying, what have you got to offer if Cameron comes over? The only downside, I think, is that it's not an AFL. It's an AFL market, not a rugby league market over there primarily. So you might not get that absolute blue chip companies involved. But I think also you've got a presence like Melbourne Inga over there, and you get someone like Cameron Munster who signs on. Certainly that can start to change.
Well, we'll talk about the salary cap in 2027 when they come in. So we just looked that up. The base is 11.7.
Yep.
They get a veteran allowance, which I assume they get, even though it's only really for players who've been at the same club.
No, I don't think they'll get one. I think players can. Look, I don't know, to be honest.
Who've been in the game 8 years at the same club.
I'm not sure how it works with players who have joined other clubs, so I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, so maybe they don't get that, and then they get the car allowance. So they're talking around $12 million, but I guess
it'll go up though. The new broadcast deal will send that up.
So that happens in 2028, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if they don't put it beyond the Landers to go back and renegotiate something. He's already got two teams coming into the competition. I will just wait and see. Like, there'll be another team in 2027, which will give that extra year anyway. So it'll give it an extra game in 2027 when the Bears are playing. So,
well, the interesting thing is you've got two of the richest people in Australia in Gina Reinhardt and Twiggy.
Yeah,
Twiggy's worth 25 billion Australian dollars.
Yeah, I know.
So if he tips a little bit of that, and he's already sponsoring. They're already sponsoring the Dragons.
Yeah, I'll say this though: there is a process you've got to go through at the NRL where. And I know that this sort of angers a lot of the smaller clubs. So like the clubs like, for example, North Queensland, Newcastle, Canberra, they get agitated because they'll go to the NRL and they'll say, look, we've got a third-party sponsor here that wants to sign up this guy for this amount of money.
Yep.
And the NRL will basically, what they do is they put it in a checklist and they sort of place it where it sort of, that amount sits and who is offering that. And they've said to a lot of those smaller clubs, look, that's not a fair amount. That's fake. It's they think it's a sweetheart deal, so to speak, and the sponsor's overpaying as part of a salary cap rort. The smaller clubs will argue back that, a bloke at the Roosters might not have got a similar deal, or a bloke at Canterbury might not have got a similar deal. But in our market, he is worth that much money to us.
Okay.
I know, for example, Jason Croker was getting knocked back on third-party deals, and the NRL were looking at him and they won't say, well, he's not Greg Inglis and he's not Cameron Smith. So look,
why is he getting so much money?
Why are they offering? And Canberra was saying, well, hang on a second.
We don't have Greg Inglis.
Yeah, but they're saying in Canberra he is worth that much.
Yeah,
because he's well known in Canberra. So that was their argument there. Which I think is a valid argument. But the NRL were knocking a lot of those back. So how it goes over there remains to be seen. The fact that the player managers are over there already sounding them out, though, does not surprise me. So,
yeah, well, I mean, what makes good clubs good with their third parties? I mean, what is that? The structure of the management of the board? How does that work? I mean, you look at
look, it's about your contacts, and it's about the power of personality in your clubs. That's from a completely transparent point. But Warren, the truth is, a lot of clubs will say to a player, look, come here, mate, we can give you 400,000, you want 5, but what we'll do is we'll get you a third-party sponsorship for 100,000. Now, technically, under the laws, the NRL's the clubs aren't allowed to do that. The NRL, if they get wind of that, will stop that. But the clubs do that, and they then reverse engineer it, so the player will sign on for 400,000. They'll keep the sponsor sitting there for a couple of months or whatever, and then they'll bring him in, and they'll introduce the sponsor to the player. They go and get the deal done for $100,000, which has already been agreed upon by which the club is orchestrated, and then the deal gets done. So that's how they sort of wrought their way around it. That's what the NRL's been trying to stop by actually knocking back a lot of those approaches of this guy's offered this and this guy's offered that. Which again, the unfairness of it all is the size difference between the big clubs, such as Brisbane, who have all of Brisbane to basically just soak up. Okay, they do have a tremendous advantage in that respect. And Melbourne kind of do. I know they're in an AFL market, but the big names in Melbourne are known, and certainly for rugby league people, they have an ability there. And then again, even in Sydney, there are parts of Sydney that are just more financially successful than other parts. And so there's a lot more, like, for example, the eastern suburbs where the Roosters are, there's just a lot more corporations.
And a lot of old money too, right?
A lot of old money, a lot of old owners, a lot of old chief executives, all of that sort of stuff. As opposed to, say, the further out west you go, the businesses generally get smaller as far as their overall revenue. So there are, look, no club is exactly the same as the other club, okay, which is why it has to go through a process at the NRL. I don't think the NRL are always spot on with it. It'd be interesting to see, particularly how Papua New Guinea fit into this when they come into the competition, because that's the other thing. I'll tell you now, all these managers over in Perth, their next plane trip is to Port Moresby. So
to hit up the coffee companies.
Well, exactly, coffee and oil, whatever it is over there. But they'll do that because that's where the money is. And look, that's them doing their job. But I have a great cynicism for the third parties sponsorships. I really think the NRL should disclose it. Now, in the past, whenever I've gone to the NRL, they just come back with these bullshit figures. Now, because it's not publicly available, you can't contest it. You can't
so why don't they make that public?
Because it would show the unfair advantage clubs have got.
Right.
Okay. So at the moment, we're led, this fairy tale that every club's spending the same as everybody else. That it's an even play. Yes, and that's bullshit. It's a fairy tale. So, and it would be unfair. Like, I've been told by some chief executives that the difference in clubs is $4 to $5 million difference.
Wow,
which is a lot of money. Now, when I went to the NRL after a couple of chief executives complained to me about the unfairness of it all. The NRL came back, and I think roughly, I'm going back a few years now, but roughly the figures came back that the top clubs, without naming who they were about 400,000, and the bottom clubs were about 100,000. So they were arguing, look, the difference is not that much.
Minimal.
But it's a bit of a laughing matter within the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, you can see the teams which have been successful recently, the Brisbane Broncos, Roosters, that all those parties, I mean, all those teams have strong third parties, Melbourne Storm, and now Canterbury.
And Warren, if you want to really sort of nail down on it, that's the only thing that's remained consistent through the ages, so to speak. Like the Melbourne Storm have rolled over 2 complete rosters now, while they've maintained a top 4 nearly every year. Okay, but they've gone. Cameron Smith played 18 seasons. They'll make it before he got there. They're still making it after he got there. Okay, the Broncos, they've had a few spectacular collapses. Generally, if you really want to be cynical about it, the collapse of the thoroughbreds in the Broncos, which is their unofficial supporter group, coincided with the collapse of the Broncos. So that tells you everything you need to know about the extra money that comes in. And clubs are trying to organise that. Clubs have got their special groups at the moment. So I treat it all with a cynical eye.
Bit dirty?
It is. But look, as long as you know it's there, you can't be.
Yeah.
Look, I don't get upset by it. It's the way the game is.
Yep. Mate, let's move on. Jack Wighton found guilty last night.
Yeah, look, it's funny. I watched the replays a lot this morning. You can see that now. Look, they sort of they swung for the fences a little bit. I think South. I think they thought, look, we're going to lose him for 3 anyway. Yeah. What's 4? What's the difference? Yeah. Okay, so
the season's done
from that point of view. But they thought, what's the difference between 3 games and 4 games? We'll give it a roll. They did go for that. Now, when you looked at the evidence, the evidence was he basically turned side on, cocked his shoulder, brought his right arm in, and he had his fists clenched, which suggested, which was alleged that clearly that position he wasn't there to make a tackle. Now, from that moment on, it was hard to defend.
Yep.
They did argue that late footwork from Toby Rudolph resulted in it. Yes, that probably did, but also that Wighton didn't change. He chased him as opposed to switching to his inside shoulder, his left shoulder to make the tackle. So all these things contributed. Then they tried to argue the severity of the charge, which I didn't think you could do once you've been found guilty, but they did that. And basically they were knocked back. They showed that it had moderate force, which it certainly did. He wasn't trying to pull out of it. He did knock him out. Some people have argued that the knockout shouldn't have been considered part of the penalty. But the fact is, it has to be, I think, considered part of it, part of the strength of the charge, based on the fact that there is an onus on the tackler to not put the player being tackled in a dangerous position. Now, that gives some people the shits. I know people have argued with me, well, why isn't there as much responsibility put on the ball runner? Well, the ball runner's got something like 3 or 4 people he needs to be aware of as he runs in line. He's going to get hit by at least 2 blokes, most often 3,
coming from different angles.
Sometimes 4. He can't be responsible for all of them.
Yep.
Okay, particularly because one of them changes direction. It throws the whole thing into chaos. But the tackler should be responsible for the welfare of the ball player, the ball runner. And to be fair, I think as a civilised game, that's fair enough. Like as a civilised game, you can't just have a free shot at somebody.
Like shooting out.
Well, you can't just say, oh, look, it was an accident, bad luck.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know, obviously, from my experience in the game, there are players who do deliberately. Back in the day, they used to always try and knock players out. Always knock players out. Mario Fennick used to be the best at it. Mario Fennick used to hit poor old Chief, and he'd hit him high, but he'd hit him with his shoulder, and he'd come in and he'd do that big tackle where he'd wrap his arms around, but he'd always hit shoulder on the Chief's chin, and you'd see Chief go limp, and Mario would hold him up a little bit, and then slowly let him just sort of like liquid go to the ground, and then he'd turn to the referee like, "What's happened?" All innocent, but the fact that it happened every time they played, or nearly every time they played, certainly late in Mario's career. Nobody thought it was an accident every time.
Yeah, okay, mate. Still on South, David Fifita. Whispers going around that he's a big chance to head there.
Well, yeah, it's been going around that he actually called Wayne Bennett up a few weeks back when he's having problems with the Titans. He's not in favour with Des Hasler.
Does that mean it's all over there, you think?
I think if he can get out, he'll get out. And I think if the Titans can get rid of him, they'll get rid of him.
Gives him an opportunity to clear some big salary.
Well, yeah, but that's going to be the issue. Yeah, how much money he's on and how much Souths are prepared to pick up if he goes. Because the Titans will not... Look, they'll want to get him off the books, and that's the negotiation. Look, we want to get him off. He's on $1 million. We want to get that off the books. But how much is South's going to pick up? Souths will take him because they're not going to have to pay $1 million to get him. Yeah. But they don't want to pay close to $1 million, and which is what the Titans want. The Titans aren't going to let him for just a small saving because they may as well keep him. So that'll be the negotiation. Whether that comes to fruition or not, I don't know. But certainly he's making a few calls about getting out of the club.
You'd have to think his next club's probably his last chance.
I think he's already on his last chance. The similarities between David Fifita and Tavita Pangai are frightening.
They both Taylor, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit Dave Taylor. Yeah. A little bit Dave Taylor too. Both, all of them came through, massive reputations, massive potential, were doing things on the football field that players their size had no right really to do.
Yep.
But all of them probably skipped a few steps in their early development and probably got a little bit ahead of before they were probably mentally ready to get there.
Because they're big boys and they've got good...
Big boys. Everyone could see the potential. Everyone wanted to have that at their club. And so they overpaid for them. I remember years ago when Pangai left the Canberra Raiders, Brisbane signed him, and I said to Ricky Stewart, I said, gee, you've let one go. And he said, no, I'm not concerned by it. Now, at the time, Pangai had a massive reputation. Everyone thought this guy's going to be the next Sonny Bill type player, superstar. And what pissed him off, to be honest, was Pangai went to the Raiders and said, I want a locker. And under the club rules, you get a locker once you've played first grade. That's it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
So Ricky said, well, mate, you know how it works here. You play your first grade game, you get a locker.
Yeah.
He said, no, I want one now. And Ricky said, mate, you're not getting one now. And anyway, it became a bit of an issue. He didn't just drop off. It wasn't like, okay, sweet, don't worry about it. It became an issue. And he felt like he wasn't being appreciated.
Wasn't being respected.
All that sort of rubbish.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And so suddenly the conversation started with him and the Broncos, and the Raiders were like happy to see him go.
Yeah.
Because that was an early indication to them about someone wanting a shortcut.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and I think that's probably what's cost. I think it certainly cost Pangai a lot of money because he could have had a magnificent career. I think it's in the process of costing Fifita. Like, he has made a lot of money, but he certainly has not fulfilled his potential, and he can still, though. That's the one thing he still can, but he really needs to pull his finger out.
Yeah, right. It's an interesting story. I mean, it's kind of telltale. Every parent says these days kids need to learn the right to earn their respect and et cetera, right?
Yeah, you cuddle them in your arms too long, they die in your arms. So
okay, there you go, mate. News out of Newcastle that the Knights have re-signed Dane Gagai and kind of succumbed to fan pressure.
What do you make of that?
Oh, well, look, I think he's a great player. I mean, he's at the end of his career, and I don't know what money they paid for him. If you're Newcastle, I think you just got to re-sign blokes, right? Because, he is an Origin player. He is an experienced player.
Yeah.
And
it all depends what they paid for him, doesn't it? It really does depend on what they pay for him. But I don't like the fact that a club, look, they won't ever admit to how much they were influenced by this fan petition to sign him. They'll claim that it was a football decision and it was irrelevant of the fans. The fans are claiming a win for the masses.
Well, famously before there was Alex Johnson who received the same treatment from Rabbitohs fans. Yeah,
and look, to be fair, he's probably gone through and made the most of it and proven the validity of doing that. But I look, it's the old Jack Gibson line. You listen to the fans, you'll soon be sitting with them. So that's a problem for the Knights. But if they got him for the right price, and we don't know, he might not have many other offers. He is at the end of his career, but he's a good clubman. So there are reasons to keep him. He certainly wasn't worth what he was on. So if he's taking a big pay cut, it's not a bad signing.
I think the thing about rugby league now is 27 weeks. It's a war of attrition, and you need players and you need experience. And these young kids cannot play 27 games.
Yeah, but the other thing though, you've got to ask yourself, Warren, and I don't know this about the Knights, is who's coming through? Who would have been in that position next year? And
who you may lose to another club because you're not giving him an opportunity.
That's a risk you take, okay? How far away is that guy who's going to come and play 10 years in the centres for you at Newcastle? Now, if he's probably 2 seasons away from becoming a regular starter, not a bad decision. If he's busting to go now and he's being held back because Gagai's there, well, it's a poor decision. So that you've got to add that into your calculations as well as the monetary factor of what you've paid.
Interesting that decision's after Peter Parr came on board, so you'd have to back Peter Parr for having extensive experience in the game.
Yeah, he does. And Peter Parr knows the football, so that's a real positive for the Knights there.
Mate, the Selwyn Cobbo has been recalled to the Broncos.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It shows you that Michael Maguire is just doing all he can to win. Look, he dropped Selwyn. Spectacular circumstances earlier this year. A lot of complaints from people. I don't think it was a bad decision. I think Selwyn's footy had gone off a little bit.
He looked lost.
Yeah, he did. Now he's gone. We know he's going to the Dolphins next year. But the big thing is the Broncos need they need a bit of a heart starter at the moment. They need something to get them going. And both wingers have been dropped.
Interesting. Both, isn't it?
So Michael Maguire's got 2 new wingers. D. Mariner's back this week on one wing and Cobbo's on one. And basically, I think that's to get their sets started, to get them starting to roll forward. To sort of, it's very important that in your back three that your first couple of tackles from a kick, you start to get some momentum going. So your big guys can come in on the back of that. You can do that through either a big body like Cobbo, who just big, powerful, can bust through. Whereas Mariner, for example, he's a little bit quicker, but he can get the quick play of the ball and get quickly out of dummy half, and he can go. So
many years ago, I was having a beer with Nathan Brown over in France with Matt Dunning, who's a mate. He was just dropping a few things there. No, but what I was saying was he just signed Wendell Saylor. Yeah. And Wendell Saylor's kind of at the end of his career. And I said to him, mate, why'd you sign him? And he said, because the first play the ball after the kick is the most important run, right? Yeah. And that's exactly
sets up the whole stick. If you get bashed on that tackle, then you struggle to get over the advantage line and get momentum for the rest of your six. You'll end up making 25 metres, whereas a good first carry with a quick play of the ball, after tackle 3, you're already past where you would have been with a poor start.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was 2007, so it still rings true now.
Nothing like big wingers.
There you go. Mate, let's have a quick – you got a multi for us?
I have got a multi. It's funny, actually. A really good bet for points bet. I like looking at firstly, Harry Grant, in his past 5 games against Parramatta, 7 tries. So he does like getting in between the big forwards of Parramatta. Okay. $2.90 there. With points bet. And also the other thing I like, Melbourne absolutely flogged Parramatta earlier this year. We remember it was a Sunday afternoon, they put the cleaners through. One thing, Melbourne, they don't play as well, don't score as well at night.
Thursday night.
As they do. It's a Thursday night game. Parramatta are vastly improved. So under 46.5 is $1.90. You put that into, I think, the Warriors, even though they're playing the Dolphins, they're outsiders at $2.20. I think playing at home, and I think it's time to get serious, boys. So they're $2.20, and I think the Broncos are playing South now. Poor old South have just lost Jack Wighton again this week, minus $18.50. So multi of those 3 without the Harry Grant one in is $8.15, which is I think is really good value.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
put a little bit on
points bet. Built different. Points bet's new 5 for $25. Answer more or less to 5 player performance questions and get $25 odds. The fast and easy way to place the same game multi on Rugby League, available only in the PointsBet app. PointsBet, built different.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Mate, we've got a few Ask Kentys we want to go through, as we do on Wednesdays, and I've got quite a few here, so we're going to push through them. Short answers for me, mate, if you can. I've got one here from AzEd97. Should NRL have a round off before the finals? So instead of round 27, you just have that round off?
No, I don't like that. I know that's an AFL thing. They celebrate AFL. I think that's a weekend that we get rugby league uninterrupted. So from that point of view, I don't get it. No, I just keep playing through.
Yep,
they've got enough players there.
Okay, Nato7247 says, how long until we see Manly shift Turbo back to fullback?
Look, I don't think it'll be long. Actually, I knew that was coming. So I had a look at this. I was going to talk about it earlier. In the last 4 games where Tom's played centre, in all 4 games, he's made more tackles than Cooler on the other side of the field, also playing centre. So against the Dogs, there's only 3 more tackles, 21-18. Yes, I got this off StatMate too, to be honest. Against the Storm, 24-14, so he made an extra 10 tackles. Against South, it was 28-11, so he's made extra 17. Against West, it was 15 tackles to 6. So in 3 of those 4 games, he's made, if not nearly
almost
double.
Triple. Yeah.
Yes, and so out of that shows that opposition teams are directing their traffic at him to wear him down through defence, and then dull his effect with the ball. I think it won't be long. And the other thing is, I think he's too isolated, strangely enough. He's too isolated on that edge defending. And I think the quicker they get him back, they're a better team with him at fullback.
Well, let's go back a bit, because after they lost to the Titans 28-8,
yep,
many rounds ago, or 6 rounds ago. Then they had a bye week. Then they came back and they moved Turbo to centre. I think they won 3 in a row then.
They did it to try and save him, yes.
Yeah.
They did to try and save his legs and all the rest of it. But what's happening?
It's the opposite.
Well, it's opposite. They're running so much traffic at him. He's doing twice the work that Cooler's doing on the other side. So, look, he's not being saved that much, but they're also wearing him down. Like Bronson Sherry went through him a few times on the weekend.
Yep.
At one point, just overpowered him, which is one thing you did not expect from Tom Trbojevic, is to be overpowered by his opposition setter. He's a big guy himself. But Sherry did that, okay, held him off, went through him, and by the time Tom managed to wrestle him in, it was on the try line he scored. So I think that he's just more dangerous. Put him back at fullback, let him roam a bit more.
Interesting tactic, isn't it? Like you think you move a player to the centre who's an international player and he'll dominate, and boom, the coaches just go straight at him and tire him out. Well,
they used to do that years ago. Tim Sheens, of all people, came up with I think he's the first I know of, certainly anyway. He came up with that he used to run traffic at Terry Lamb. If you remember back in the day, they used to pack the scrum before these days when it's still back proper scrums. And Sheens used to line Mal Meninga up at 5'8" when the Raiders had the feed against Terry Lamb. And what they found, Terry Lamb was such a courageous player that he never shirked it. But in the end, they just used to wear him down with so much defence. And poor old Mal, like Terry Lamb, he's 4'8", Terry Lamb. Yeah. Mal's a monster. So it started back then, and that became the strategy. Run at them, and you can wear them down.
Tire them out. Okay, this is from JJK Key 187. He's saying Jareen Buller will be a Cowboy in 2026. Drinkwater play 6.
Yeah, well, he's saying that.
I
haven't heard it. Well,
not a bad play if it does
happen.
It's
possible. It is possible.
Not good for Wes.
No.
Mood FM asks, Mood FM asks a lot of questions, but here's one. Which is the biggest club in Sydney?
It depends which way you measure it.
Let's say overall, and then let's say at the moment.
I would say Penrith are the biggest club.
Okay.
I think financially they're very well set up. They've got that big leagues club out there.
Always sold out.
Yeah, if not close to it. And just they've got everything clicking along. Canterbury are making great inroads now. They've always had a leagues club that's done well. Roosters have always had the great corporate support. Parramatta used to be. That shows you where Parramatta have fallen away. They were always renowned as the biggest club in Sydney, but they're no longer. And
I reckon they've got the best stadium. I love Para Stadium. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a ripper.
I'll ask you, John Kennedy, TY9X. Kenty, do you remember Dallas Johnson spitting at the TV cameras out the front of the judiciary back in the 80s?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Dallas Johnson. It was Dallas Donnelly. John Donnelly, the old West prop.
Yeah, okay.
He was a character, old Dallas.
AdsMM says, why does the media not ask questions of Fitzgibbon ability to get his players up? They can't beat a team in the top 8.
Yeah, that's probably a concern.
Do you think it's still probably a bit of a honeymoon period, maybe?
I don't think so. I think it's just because Fitzy's such a nice guy. It's fascinating because, look, Wayne coaches a team, it's Wayne's team. It's Ricky's Raiders.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So every time Canberra going terrible, everyone's just into Ricky can't coach. Doesn't matter what roster he's got, Ricky can't coach. Wayne, good or bad, it's Wayne's team. Wayne gives them a magic little touch, off they go. Look what Wayne's done to them. Forget the fact they've just signed 4 good players or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Fitzy's a bit of the other way, whereas all the criticism comes on Nico Hines. Now, Fitzy's done his best to insulate him against that. But he's such a nice fella, Fitzy. It makes it easy to sort of avoid direct criticism because people like him. And Nico becomes the scapegoat for that. But I think at some point it's going to happen. It generally turns at some point, but
not yet.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. There's a lot to be said for coaches and players in the game who just have nice manners. You know what I mean? Just return phone calls, ask how you're going. You generally get treated a lot better than the guys that tell you to. Bugger off.
Interesting. Birdbrain 7299 says, how can we get some accountability back in the refereeing ranks? For all its flaws, at least the Monday press conference forced the NRL to try and explain. They have to bring that back.
Well, I don't know if they bring it back because every week was an apology. Look, I don't know how they get it. I do feel sorry for the referees. I get the frustration of fans, and there's times I try my best not to get frustrated because I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, as I can follow a team. I don't really get emotional.
Will you follow the Perth Bears?
Oh, I think I will, yeah.
That's your team.
Yeah, I think I'll follow them when they're back. But, at the moment I don't, so I don't get emotionally involved. But when I watch what happened in the Cronulla South game, like I'm with the South fans. I'm just like, what's going on here? Yeah. And it does irritate me. But I try not to let it override me because it's easy to hate on the referees. But I get the frustration, and I think the whole problem with it is we've gone so far down this track of managing the game rather than officiating the game. It's almost like those like a big ball of string. It can't be unwound. It's just such a mess. It can't be fixed. It's going to take, if they are serious about ever fixing it, it'll take a decade. It won't be fixed in a season, and the NRL don't have the capacity for that.
Okay, I've got a couple more before we finish. OG Pretty Fly says he's talking about the penalties from the short drop kicks. There's no penalties anymore. With no penalties, receiving teams essentially no better off forcing a dropout or not. You think they should go back to penalties off the short dropout?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, well, that's it.
I don't know why we need to go that extra question.
Okay. Well, that was a shit question.
Don't worry about it. Just wrap it. Just cut that out and wrap it.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.